Hi guys, my name is Bobby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you my October TBR. Okay, so month of October is spooky month, and usually that's when I read all of my thrillers and horror and stuff like that, but life has been shitty and September was a shitty reading month for me. So for the month of October, I've decided to try to finish stuff that I've already started, and also at the same time let myself kind of mood read a little bit. There's a couple books that I'm buddy reading on my book club books, so those definitely will get read, but as for the rest, I'm just kind of letting myself go with the flow. September was a rough month for me. My kids started back at school. That's been kind of a rough start, trying to get them acclimated. My daughter hates being at home. She wants to go back to school so bad. Danielle has been really upset about being stuck at home. My son is currently going 2 days a week for 3 hours a day because he's life skills autism. So since he is not high risk, but considered one of those ones that's a high risk for losing their education, because he hasn't had any education in over 6 months. So he needs to be in school in an in-person setting. And there's only 5 kids in his class that did hybrid, which is to go back to school. So 5 kids are very easy to social distance, and they have a teacher and a paraeducator. So it's very easy to, and they're the only children in the school, and they have their own private entrance. So I'm pushing for them to go back more because my son does not do the online learning very well. So it's been a struggle to juggle Danielle's, who she's pretty good at doing it herself. She knows her schedule and she's pretty on top of making sure she's making every class and doing what she needs to do. Struggling to do her homework because it's hard because you're at home all the time. And then Lucas is having a hard time with, he wants to go back to school full time, and his best days are when he goes to school, and the days where he struggles is when he's stuck at home. So dealing with that. Whole bunch of stuff going on with my dad still, kind of, that hopefully that'll be calming down soon. Don't know. Yesterday I found 2 nails in my tire, and you know, every place is busy, so like it's sitting, I mean it's not flat, but it's just like one more thing. So I'm gonna have to drive Matt's car tonight to work, and he's got an appointment tomorrow to go get it fixed. But anyways, you guys didn't need to know all of that. It's just like one thing after another after another after another, to where like when I get stressed and my anxiety goes up, reading is the last thing I want to do. I can't focus. I can't concentrate. So I binge watch BookTube. And then when I've watched all the BookTube videos and I'm all caught up, then I switch over to ID Discovery. If you are in the United States, you know what ID Discovery is. It's very easy to get addicted to. If you're not from the US, ID Discovery is a discovery channel which is all about true crime. It's called Investigation Discovery. It's 100% true crime. They have over 50 shows that are all true crime. Deadly Women is one of my favorites. I think it's, and I love Candace DeLong. I would love to like have lunch with her. That's what I end up doing. And I kind of go right into my shell, and I don't want to read. And it's been really hard for me. So with October coming, which October tends to be my favorite month of the year, that's usually when the weather starts to change, where we get the windstorms and the rainstorms, and it's just darker and cloudy, and it starts to get cooler. And it's my favorite time of year. So that's when that happens. That's usually when I kind of get into my reading groove and I can just burrow down and read. So I'm hoping that's what happens, because I was doing really well. July was good. August wasn't that bad. And then September, I just tanked again. And I don't know if it's just 2020. I mean, I think I'm up to 43 books this year. Usually by this time this year, I've read at least 60 at least. And it's frustrating because I'm used to reading more and I'm not. And thank you guys for sticking around, considering I've only been reading, 5 books a month max, sometimes only 2 or 3. So I really appreciate you guys for sticking around, because I feel like a poser considering my reading's been shit. But anyways, the books that I want to read, or, hoping to read or complete in the month of October. First is Vicky and my pick for our Random Reads book club, which is over on Goodreads. It's always linked down in the description. And October, of course, is a spooky month, so we have chosen The Hunger by Alma Katsu. I have an ebook copy of this. I didn't have a copy when we chose it, and I just figured I'd go and buy it. Since I'm reading so well on my Kindle, and Vicky and I have broken it down by chapters. I had Vicky break it down. She's better at that than I am. She did it by chapters, so it's easy for me to read on the Kindle, and we don't all have to have the same edition. We're not doing like page count. So The Hunger, is a horror. It's a historical horror. That is a historical horror retelling of the Donner Party. If you don't know what the Donner Party is, Google it. Especially if you're not from the US, you might not know what the Donner Party is, but it took place in like the late 1800s, and it was, I don't remember where they're coming from. I think it's Kansas, Kansas, Oklahoma, something like that. And they're in wagons and they're going on a wagon train. And I believe they're trying to get to California, Oregon. I can't remember. Like, I'm a terrible U.S. historian, but they're trying to get to the West Coast. Okay. So, and they're in the Midwest trying to get to the West Coast. They get to the mountains because there's a huge mountain range that runs right down, and they get to the mountain range, and most of the people in their party, in the huge group, go the way that they're supposed to, but the other people, the Donner Party, decides they're going to take a shortcut, and they get stuck in a horrific snowstorm to where they can't move. They run out of supplies, shit runs downhill, and cannibalism takes place. So the real life story in and of itself is horrific, but this is a horror retelling. So I believe in this, it's something that has to do with either witchcraft or some kind of monster-ish in the woods that surround them as they're traveling. That is the horror element. Sorry if you can hear my son. He just got home from school, which means he's immediately on his tablet watching whatever, and I apologize. But yeah, so I'm excited because I've heard really good things about this, and I know she came out with another book. I think it came out in like June. I believe it's called The Deep, which is a horror retelling of the Titanic, which the sinking of the Titanic was already a horrific event anyways in the amount of people that died. But if you make it a horror retelling and it's either a water monster or something like that that actually brought the Titanic down, that kind of makes it more fun. I want to read that one as well. But we're starting with The Hunger. A lot of people so far in the Goodreads group are pretty excited about it. There was one person that said they may not read because the Donner Party itself is so horrible. They don't want to read something like that, which is totally fine. That's why if you're already in the group, we kind of give you a heads up so you can kind of like, you don't have to participate. We don't force you. It's just, we're so all over the board. We know that some people aren't going to like it all of the time. But that is our pick. I'm really excited. It's not very long. I think it's maybe 400 pages, something like that. So it should be easy to get through. But that one is like, I'm hoping to start right away on October 1st to kind of get the nice, like, kickstart into, getting, good horror vibes, getting the good fall vibes. And I'm really excited to see what everybody thinks once we get going. Okay, next is a book that's been on my TBR 40 million times, but I'm going to buddy read it this time, so it's going to get read. And that's Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is a horror manga about spirals. I am buddy reading this with Sarah over at Sarah's Nightstand. She had reached out to me and said that she had bought this because she'd seen it on a couple of my TBRs and asked me about it. And I said, well, I haven't actually read it because I'm a terrible person when it comes to following TBRs. And she's never read a manga and she's not a big graphic novel reader. And so she asked if I would buddy read it with her so we can kind of go through it together since we're both kind of, old 80s and new at this. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. But I know Becca from Becca in the Books had told me how to read the mangas. She's like, this is the way you read it. Of course, it's back to front. It's like opposite what Americans read. And I knew that, but I wasn't sure how to read the panels. So Becca explained it to me. So I shared that information with Sarah and she said, hey, you want to buddy read it? Yes, I do. That would be awesome because then we can kind of experience it and get to know it together. I know she's trying really hard to get into more mangas and graphic novels and stuff like that. And I used to read them. I read them at the start of my channel a lot. For me, in order to read a graphic novel, it has to be something that's really going to interest me or I'm really invested in. Horror mangas and, the Buffy comics is something I might try because it's something I already know I enjoy. But other than that, they just don't appeal to me except for the couple that I have read, like the I Hate Fairyland, fucking hilarious. Saga, one of the best things I've ever read. Stuff like that. Like that I'm good with. So I'm really excited to get into this. I don't even know how many pages this is. I don't even think it has, it does have page numbers. Okay. Just not on all. But it's huge. It's like 700 something pages, but it's a manga. It should go pretty quick. So I need to actually reach out to Sarah and ask her when she wants to start this and how we're going to break it down. But yes, I will be reading this in October. It's been on like 7 TBRs. I'm going to read it this month. After that, I would like to read a book that is carrying over from my September TBR that I never got around to. Completely failed Becca's Bookopoly-thon, by the way, but that's My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This is another horror, but this is like horror light. I struggle to call Grady Hendrix horror light because it depends on how you handle your horror, because Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I would consider it a horror, but there's some graphic body horror in that where you're just gonna go, ugh, where if you're not ready for that, it could totally throw you for a loop. This I know takes place in the 80s. It's also very short, and it's about a friend. I think it's a group of friends with these two girls, and they trip on acid or LSD, something like that, and then one of them ends up possessed and they do an exorcism on her. I've heard nothing but good things about this. Almost everybody's read this but me. Becca just finished this in the month of September. She liked it, though she said there is some animal cruelty in there, so trigger warnings if you haven't read that. But I want to read this in October since I didn't get around to it in September. Okay, books that I'm currently reading that I would like to finish or make progress on. Air, Fire, which I had the Dust Jacket Sloth by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 3 in Throne of Glass. I haven't made any progress at all in September. I'm still on page 67. So it's kind of like one of those ongoing ones. When I feel in the mood, I'll pick it up. I was in the mood to barely read in September, so I didn't pick it up. But that one I need to get a move on because I'm woefully behind. I would also like to continue and finish the Star Wars trilogy by George Lucas and a couple other authors. This is my special edition. If you did not if you did not watch my vlog, I think it was my week 2 or week 3. I think it was my week 3 vlog. I showed all of my 5 special editions that I got from Barnes & Noble, which this is really hard with my ring light. It's so bright. But I started reading A New Hope. I'm about halfway through A New Hope. This has the 3 original Star Wars movies in book form, and from reading the foreword in this, George Lucas actually wrote A New Hope as a short story before it got sold as a movie, and so A New Hope is written entirely by him. The other 2 are written by other people, but also him, like his input. I think The Empire Strikes Back was written by the person who wrote the screenplay for Empire and based on his ideas, and George Lucas had input as well. This is like super shiny, and it's got silver gilded edges that are very shiny. Yeah, this book is gorgeous. It's got its own bookmark. Yeah, I love it. Which there is a 3rd version of this as I was pitter-farting around. And it wasn't on Barnes & Noble when I originally bought this one, but I think I still would have got the Darth Vader version. Because there's a Darth Vader version, there's a Princess Leia version, and then there's a C-3PO version as well. Or a droid version, but it's all gold and it has C-3PO on the front. Yeah, it's really pretty. But I would like to finish this. This is kind of one I have no timeline on. It's just like, I know these stories, but I'd like to actually read them. So whenever I feel in the mood, and I just want some sci-fi, then I'll pick this up. Next are a couple other books. Like I said, this wasn't going to be very long, but apparently it is a lot longer. Like the ones that I'm definitely 100% going to read are Uzumaki and The Hunger. But then there's a couple other books that are coming out that I want to read. There's 2 that are coming out that I really want to get to. The first one is Famine by Laura Thalassa. This is book 3 in the Horsemen of the Apocalypse quartet. Yeah, series, quartet. Okay, I am sorry if the angle has now changed, and I think the lighting should be the same, but the angle may have changed. I was in the middle of filming and my sister called me, so yeah, sorry. So where was I? So Famine by Laura Thalassa comes out October 1st. So Famine is one of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and in this series, each book focuses on a horseman. So book 1 was Pestilence, book 2 is War, and now book 3 is Famine, and book 4, which I believe is coming out in 2021, hopefully is Death, and will be the conclusion of the series. So I've read the first 2 and I really enjoy them. These stories are structured as it's the apocalypse. It doesn't give an exact year, but when the 4 horsemen first arrived to Earth, all electronics and technology shut down and were affected. So cars stopped working, the internet was gone, anything like cell phones, all of that shit's gone, telephones, everything is gone, even landlines, whole 9 yards. So the only electricity is touch and go. Some people still have electricity, some people don't. It just depends on the area. So stuff like that where you're kind of going back almost to like olden times because all technology is gone, very apocalyptic. But nothing, everybody's still trying to live like normal. Like there's no zombies, there's anything like crazy, no crazy flu strain or anything like that that would make it so people are dying. But the apocalypse happens when the 4 horsemen show up, and then I think it's a couple years, like 5 years in to the start of the apocalypse, Pestilence rides through a chunk of the United States. I guess they all started in Miami or whatever, or like Florida, but he went up the eastern seaboard into eastern Canada, across Canada, and then where he stopped, or where that story stopped, he was down into like Washington, Oregon. No, they went all the way to LA, so they were down into California. So he just kind of did this big loop. He never went through the middle of the United States. And the way it worked is that if he came in within a certain mile radius, he had the power to give people the plague. And if you got the plague, then, you die within, I think, like 4 or 5 days. And it's not a very fun death. It's not horrific, super gory, but it's not fun. It's like high fevers, boils, that kind of thing. So then when pestilence stops within 4 to 5 years, I think because they do a time jump, I think it's 5 years, then War wakes up, and he's in Jerusalem and the Middle East. And so that story focuses mainly in like Jerusalem, Egypt, all Sudan, like all the way kind of like through there. It kind of, they called it New Palestine, but that's what they called it after the apocalypse started. So I don't know much about the Middle East, but that's where that takes place. Famine, I believe, takes place in the south. So each horseman wakes up, starts doing their thing. Like War, he just literally destroys, like slaughters every single city and town he comes through. And then Famine, you know, each one is stopped because it is a fantasy romance. Pestilence and War were each stopped by a woman, where they fall in love with a woman and decide that it's more important to be with them because they've fallen in love than to continue their crusade killing people. And the whole point is that each woman has shown their respective horsemen the good of humanity, because the whole point is that humanity sucks. That's why we're here and we're going to kill everybody. But these women, as they like connect with each horseman, show them that there is still good in humanity. And that, you know, humanity is worth saving, that not everybody's terrible. So I'm excited to start Famine. I believe it takes place somewhere in the South. Like I'm guessing either Africa, South America, somewhere in there, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Because like in the beginning of Pestilence, it says that, I think it would say pestilence went north, war went east, famine went south, and death went west. Which doesn't really seem to make sense considering pestilence was in like Canada, yes, but then he came down the west coast, and the western part of the world is United States. So, you know, east makes sense because, you know, War was in the Middle East, so that is definitely east. That makes sense. So south to me would be like Australia, South America, Africa, somewhere in there, and I'm not sure where death's going to show up, but the series is really good. It is kind of tropey a little, but not in a way that I really dislike. Most of it's stuff that it's easy to enjoy. So I'm really excited to get into Famine. War took me a little bit longer to read than Pestilence did, but that's because I was slumping, but it was still very good and I really enjoyed it. I actually, between the two horsemen, I preferred War over Pestilence. Pestilence was more like a child and very childlike in the way he perceived things. War is more worldly, like he understands humans a little bit better than Pestilence did. So we'll see how Famine does. I know each one is described different physically, which is kind of nice, kind of based on where they're at. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into that one. When it drops October 1st, which is in 2 days from now, I will be downloading it on Kindle Unlimited. And I'm really addicted to Laura Thalassa, and it's all Becca's fault. The last book that I want to hopefully get to, if it arrives, I don't know, is The Savior's Sister by Jenna Moreci. This is the sequel companion book to The Savior's Champion, which was one of my favorite books of 2018. I think it was 2018. It was 2018. The Savior's Champion was amazing. Jenna Moreci has her own YouTube channel or author tube channel. I think it's Writing with Jenna Moreci, something like that. And I absolutely enjoy her. I got her book in a book box, which is now defunct. And so I decided to read it on a whim and absolutely fell in love with the story. Trying to get Becca to read it. She won't, because somebody that she dislikes, it was one of their favorite books. And I'm telling her it's my favorite book, and one of them, and she needs to fucking read it because it's a fantasy romance with a whole bunch of action. And I think she would absolutely love it if she just fucking read it. So The Savior's Sister is a companion to The Savior's Champion. So it is the exact same story as The Savior's Champion, except for from the main female's point of view. So in The Savior's Champion, it's from the main character, Tobias. It's from his point of view. And he spends most of his time in the story underground in a labyrinth in this competition, fight to the death competition. So he doesn't really know what much is going on in the world around him. And a lot of complaints from a lot of readers was that there wasn't very much world building in The Savior's Champion because, you know, they're like, there's no world building. We don't really know what's going on in the world. And Jenna had said, she goes, well, yeah, because you're getting the perspective from Tobias, who is literally underneath the ground the entire time. It's really hard to give world building and show how the world is when he is underground for 90% of that time. So the main character in The Savior's Sister is Lila, and she is, she's the main female character in The Savior's Champion. So you're getting the events of The Savior's Champion from her point of view from the palace. So I'm assuming we're going to get way more world building and more political structure of the world, and all the stuff people thought were lacking in The Savior's Champion, I think are going to definitely be in The Savior's Sister. And I believe this is supposed to be a 5 to 6 book series, Jenna has said. I know she has the title for book 3, but she won't reveal it. She makes people guess. She abbreviates it TSA. Not sure what it's going to be. I'm assuming since the Savior's Champion came out in late 2017, early 2018, and this one's coming out. It might be another year to 2 before the next one comes out, which really bums me out because I really, really love her writing. She's gory, she swears, she doesn't give a fuck. Like, I just really love it. It's a real one of those fantasy romances that you can really get into, because yes, the romance is one of the main focuses, but she writes really good action and shit too, so she's just a good writer. It's not as fluffy as some of the other ones, and I really, really enjoy it. So I pre-ordered this in June. The release date is it today? It's today the 29th. It's today. The release date is fucking today. So it technically should be here today. But Jenna is an indie published author. So she does all of the publishing herself. She just got the ARCs for her book like a week ago. And the ARCs should have been out months prior. So I know the printer has had a lot of issues printing the books. Amazon has contacted me twice. Once from Amazon UK because I pre-ordered it for Cody. I know Cody probably won't watch this, so that surprise is kind of ruined. I may actually send her a message and let her know so she doesn't attempt to buy it on her own, especially since it's going to be late. And Amazon US emailed me and said, we don't know when the ship date is for this. We don't know when we're going to get it, but, you know, do you still want it? And yes, I do. You know, I pre-ordered it. I want to read it. So if it gets here in October, then I'll read it. It should have been here today. And if it was, I would have started it immediately. But, you know, I'm excited for it. So when it gets here, I definitely will pick it up. Don't know if it'll be October, November. It just depends on whenever they can get the books printed and shipped. I ordered the paperback and not the hardback because they're big floppy paperbacks, and the Savior's Champion is in paperback, so I wanted to kind of keep the consistency. So I ordered it in paperback. But I can't wait for it to get here. We've waited way too long for it. I mean, it's not her fault. She has to write it and edit it and beta test it and all that shit. It's fine. But it's release day, and I'm so excited to get it, but I don't know when it's going to get here. So when it gets here, I'll read it. Hey guys, I'm inserting this into my TBR because as I was getting ready to edit my TBR, and I started editing it, and then I went online to go pull the book covers for my ebooks, I sent a message to Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand to ask her to make sure we were still on for Uzumaki. It was like, I hope you are, because I've just filmed my TBR. And she's filmed hers too. And she goes, yes, you beat me to it. I was going to send you a message. And she mentioned she was doing Slayerfest 2020, which I had wanted. It's a readathon that runs for a month long. I can't remember the name of the creator. I'm subscribed to her. Can't remember her name. I am so sorry. Her channel will be linked in the description below if you'd like to check her out. She's got a lower subscriber count. She's a smaller booktuber like I am. She's really well spoken. Don't know why she doesn't have more subs than she does, because she's very eloquently spoken. And she's created this entire readathon that's based around Buffy, and it kind of goes through the seasons. So first you pick your character, and there's 10 characters to choose from. So you pick your character. Each character has a strength and a weakness, and based on what you pick kind of goes how you go through the readathon. So all month you go through, you start with your character, you read the prompt associated with your character, and then you have either a punishment and also a plus, what do they call that? A strength. There we go. Words are hard. But I chose Spike, which is unusual. I thought about choosing Buffy just only because it's Buffy. But for me, Buffy is like, I absolutely adore her, but in this readathon, Buffy's prompt or her strength is that she doesn't have to read the last prompt, like prompt 10. So while that was very appealing to me, at the same time, with how bad my reading is, I like Spike's strength. His strength is that he can double up on prompts, whereas everybody else cannot. A lot of them, they get to skip certain prompts, but I get to double up. So I get to double up as on many as I want, except for one prompt I can't double up on. So I'm going to run through those really quick because most of the books that I've just already talked about on my TBR are going to be on this. So we'll just go through them really quickly. So my character's Spike, and so I can double up on any prompt. And his prompt is read a hate to love. So for that, I'm going to read Famine. And then the first location is the Bronze, which is to read a light and fluffy read, which I'm going to double up and read Famine because Famine is a fantasy romance. Place 2 is the Cemetery, which is a short/quick read. And so for that, I'm going to choose, am I going to choose this one or this one? You know what? I'm going to choose this one. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, which is also going to be doubled up for prompt 3, which is the Library, which is oldest book on your TBR. Now, while this is not necessarily the oldest on my TBR, I'm fudging this prompt a little bit because I looked and the oldest book on my TBR is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and I'm not fucking reading that book. I looked on my Kindle. The oldest books that I have on my Kindle are Anna Karenina, Outlander again, because I have it that way too, or Witches of Eastwick. Also no. So I'm just going to stick with Sharp Objects, which is short. So it's a nice, short, quick read, and I can put this for 2 prompts in a row. So, which I'm excited about, because Vicky got me this for my birthday, and I know she read it. I know Kat read it and loved it from Paperback Dreams. So it's not necessarily the oldest on my TBR, but I've wanted to read this for a very long time, multiple years. I just haven't physically owned it until this year. But so this is going in for short and quick read and oldest on my TBR. And then what's next? Mansion, read next in a series, Airfire. Easy peasy. And that's the one I cannot double up on, but that's easy. I've already started that one, but I'm only 60 pages in. They're easy to get through. And then this is one, Sunnydale High is prompt 5 or location 5. And this is the one I struggled with. You have to read a book where the school is the main setting. I do not own any books where school is the main setting. I sent pictures of my shelves into Becca's Patreon Discord and be like, hey guys, help me. And even Becca's like, dude, So I'm going to do something I didn't really want to do, and I'm going to buy Catherine House. Can't remember the author's name. There'll be a picture on the screen. Again, filming this really quickly. And this is also and this will also double up for the next prompt, which is UC Sunnydale, which is least favorite trope. Now, school settings I love, but from what I've heard about Catherine House is that it's very slow to start. I hate books that start slow. So it's not necessarily a trope, so I'm putting a twist on the trope, but still, I don't want to read a book. I hate reading books that are slow to start. So I'm not sure if I'm going to buy Catherine House on my Kindle or in physical form. Maybe on my Kindle, because most of these are physical. So we'll see how it goes. I'll probably just go ahead and buy it on my Kindle. And then, so that takes 5 and 6. So place 7 is The Tower. So read a book outside your comfort zone. So for that, Uzumaki, which I will buddy read with Sarah, which this is also her prompt for outside her comfort zone, because it's a manga. Neither of us have read manga before, and we're kind of nervous to read it. So we got that. And then Magic Box is place 8, and it is read a book that is either read a book of poetry, a book that's written in prose, or a book where music is the main plot point. So this was one of my sticking points of not necessarily wanting to participate. I hate poetry. I'm not a fan of poetry at all. You'll never see me reading poetry. So in hand with that, I am also not a fan of books told in prose. Like, I really just don't like them or enjoy them. I don't care how good the plot is. I don't enjoy them. So music, main plot point. I have a book of the month book that I got 2 months ago, The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes, but it's thick, and it's about a pop singer. So I was like, that one I could easily do. But then Becca was like, hey, she's like, my best friend's Exorcism, every single chapter is a song title. Done. So this will double up with, oh no, I'm not doubling this one up because I'm going to double up Sharp Objects instead. But so this one will be for the music prompt, even though I'm kind of stretching it a little. And then, so prompt 9 is Dark Willow, a darker taboo book. The Hunger by Alma Katsu fits perfectly in that. Very dark and cannibalism, taboo. So there we go. And so prompt 10, which if you're Buffy, you get to skip, but I'm not Buffy, is The Hellmouth, which is the largest book on your TBR, one that intimidates you. So I started looking through my Goodreads, and yeah, so the longest book on my TBR that's on my want to read list is The Stand by Stephen King, which is not happening because I have other plans for that book. So no. And other than that, I know the other 2 are going to be either not Well of Ascension. Why can't I think of it? Oathbringer, and it's not Well of Ascension is Mistborn. Words of Radiance, Words of Radiance or Oathbringer, those, which it would be Words of Radiance, because I haven't read that one, and I know it's over 1,000 pages, so that one would definitely be next, but I'm not ready to continue with Sanderson, and I'm not going to force myself to, especially since Way of Kings made me slump so fucking hard, and it was so hard to get through. I'm not putting myself through that, so I'm not going to do that. So then I was looking on my want to read list, which has everything that is on my most everything that's on my physical TBR. It's stuff that I high priority want to read, because I'm not going to go through everything physical when there's certain books that I'm not as excited about right now, and I want to read books that excite me. So the next after The Stand on my want to read list, like books I'm excited about with the highest page count, Becca's going to be happy about this one. Yeah. So 2 Sarah J. Maas books, if I get to this one. This one is the last prompt, so hopefully I get to it, but it's Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, which is almost 900 pages. So it counts. I'm going with it. It's a huge ass fucking book. I didn't plan to get to it till after I read Throne of Glass, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So if I get that far, we'll be reading that one too. So that's it. That's Slayerfest 2020. I will link the announcement video down in the description if you want to take part. She's put a ton of work into this readathon and it looks to be super fun. I know Sarah's taking part, Becca's taking part, so I'm really excited to do it. I just feel like such a shit that off the top of my head I can't remember her channel name. When Becca told me about the readathon, I went and watched some of her videos, immediately subscribed, so I don't really know her well enough yet, but I'm excited to participate in this readathon. But that's it. Back to my original scheduled programming, which is just me babbling on and then saying goodbye. Okay guys, that's it. That is my October TBR, but hopefully I get through some of these. I know I'll definitely, hopefully, if I need to get a hold of Sarah to make sure we're reading Uzumaki and reading that, I'll definitely be reading The Hunger. So definitely 2 books read. I'll definitely read Famine when it comes out. I mean, that'll be out in 2 days, so I'll definitely pick up Famine. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm also reading From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I always get her name messed up. I'm reading this on Kindle. That's why I forgot to mention it. I'm only about 40 to 50 pages into it. It's okay so far. It's a young adult, or no, is it considered adult? I think it's considered adult fantasy romance with vampires. I believe it's a vampire story. Steph from Steph Loves read it, and she said it was really good. She gave it 4.5 stars, so she says, you know, I think you'll like it. Hopefully I get some more reading done in October. I have faith. Maybe. We'll see how it goes. But please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, if any suggestions to help kickstart my reading, any good horror books you guys have read lately that you think I might like. Please let me know, because I need something, anything, fantasy, romance, whatever. At this point, I'm wide open. Gonna try to mood read it this month, along with the couple that I have to read. But other than that, I think I will post my week ending or my end of Bookopoly-thon vlog either tomorrow or the next day, so look out for that. So other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.